Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the second series of the Surrogate podcast. I am Sophie, and I am your guest host today. And we are joined today by Georgia and Kay, who will introduce themselves to you.
Thanks, Sophie. It's good to be here. So I'm Kay. I work for MSJ. I'm normally in the hosting chair, but enjoying being in the guest chair. And I am a surrogate who's currently 34 and a bit weeks pregnant.
Thanks, Sophie. Hi, I'm Georgia, and we have recently welcomed our little boy Sunny into the world after a very long journey, which was driven by my own fertility journey, and then we had a UK journey with Kay, and then we had a miracle with Aurora, our surrogate in Mexico.
Amazing. And today we're going to be talking about the 2-week wait, which is obviously an incredibly important part of the journey. Can you just talk me through, because you've both been through the 2-week wait numerous times.
Yeah, I was just telling you before we went live here that on the train here I was working out how many 2-week waits that I've endured, and it's 10. It's 10. And I wish I could say that it gets easier each time, and it doesn't. Yeah. It really doesn't. You go through exactly the same emotions. There's so much that you are working towards to get to that point of going into that 2-week wait. You know, there's just so much. There's a flurry of appointments, there's scan, there's results, so many things have to align for you to even get to that point. Mm-hmm. And when you get to that point, then you're just totally surrendering to what's next. Mm-hmm. There is nothing that you can do from a medical side, from a personal side. You go down the Google rabbit hole. I'm not going to lie, you do that. And you go for walks. And then you go down the Google rabbit hole again, and then you go for walks. No, in all seriousness, for me, it's an act of self-care. And it's also, the reminder to lean on people, lean on your support network, lean on people who have been with you on this journey. And so, yeah, it's a roller coaster of emotions, that's for sure.
It really is. It's actually the 2-week wait that made me go, we need to do a season 2 of the Surrogate podcast, because I have never known, I've worked in reproductive health for years, and there is nothing comparable to that 14-day period of time. It is just, time does this really, really weird thing in the 2-week wait. You think beforehand, I'll be fine, I'll distract myself, I'll keep myself busy, I don't mind either way.
Counting down the minutes, aren't you?
But then time just becomes a thing of you can't distract yourself, you can't think about anything else. And I think particularly as the person that's gone through the IVF treatment, so whether that's, I know you, obviously many of your cycles were you going through the IVF. As a surrogate, this would have been the full 2-week wait that I went through. And all of the supportive or IVF-based medication that you've been on really nicely presents as early pregnancy symptoms as well. So you're also there going, oh, I felt this twinge, oh, I feel bloated, oh, I feel nauseous, oh my God.
Yeah. Everything. Looking for signs.
Looking for signs, yeah. And you, as much as everyone says, try and shut off, try and look after yourself, apart from embryo transfer day. So 2-week wait is from embryo transfer day through to testing. And that might be that you've done a home pregnancy test, or that might be your beta testing at clinic. But it just sort of stretches out into this expanse. I'm 34 weeks pregnant now. And honestly, I think the longest point of this pregnancy was 2 weeks.
Yeah, right, yeah. It's a strange sort of feeling, because you almost don't want to know the outcome. I know that sounds cool.
Yes, it's like bliss. It's like you're in this blissful, I'm just going to pretend that it's all going to be okay, because we actually don't know yet, right?
We invested so much to get there, to that point. So much is at stake. I wish you could sort of make it not feel as important as it is, but it's huge. It's huge. You try and get on with your life, you try and distract yourself with work or whatever, but it's there, it's just constantly hanging over you.
And there's a saying, isn't there, in IVF, a slang saying poo-po, so when you've had your transfer, pregnant until proven otherwise. So I remember having been through it myself a lot, and then during the surrogacy, just like focusing on, okay, we're pregnant until proven otherwise. Yeah. but you're counting the minutes.
You are.
You are literally clock watching.
I think as well, it's having a little toolkit, isn't it? It's having those pockets of sort of, because it just, your mind never stops. So it's having a toolkit that you can go, okay, I'm going to go and do a yoga class, or I'm going to go and, go for dinner with a friend. Just things that sort of take you away from just thinking about it all the time.
Yeah.
That for me was really helpful.
We spoke on an episode earlier in the season about, I can't remember what it was. I think we were talking about testing or something, but I was saying how it's this time round, I was a little bit more focused on resting afterwards. I think with the 3 embryo transfers we did on our journey, what I really read in my kind of Googling and everything was like, carry on with life as normal. I was very pro that. So it was kind of, we were having our treatment in London. I jumped straight back on the train, was back in work the next day. We tried to distract. And actually this time, not that I think that is the reason we're pregnant, whereas we weren't. I think that's more to do with embryos. But this time I was like, no, take a few days off, actually. And I said that one of the key things is the person dear to with me said, as I left, she squeezed my hand, go feed that embryo. And it was just like my permission to go and like both Donkey Trisha, just like they did to kind of slow down and highlight a bit more. Yeah, which I think was good because it allowed me to stop myself from forcing that non-focus. And I think you said, Georgia, just now, like walking was my thing. This time. Just like 2 walks a day. And whilst you're out on those walks, just like positive thinking, like all the way around those walks.
So other than walking yoga, is there anything else, any other top tips for like keeping yourself distracted during that time you would give to IPs or surrogates?
I think there's distractions, but also you've got to feel what you feel, right? Just because you feel these things doesn't mean that they're true. So you're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel all sorts of different outcomes. I just have this sort of mantra running inside me, whatever happens, it will be okay. And I think for that helped me. And I think for those that are listening, I think, try and find something that can anchor you, because you're going to be all over the place. So just find something that can anchor you, that can ground you, whatever that may be. As IPs, we can actually go and have a drink if that's the...
But it's funny you should say that, because you were my anchor for all 3. You were my anchor. Yes. I've had 2 children, but I'd never been through 2-week waits. And actually during that time, I was really able to lean in on Georgia and be like, how do you feel it? She'd say, listen, just remember whatever the outcome, it doesn't matter. Like, great, I'm so pleased my baby is coaching me.
Yeah, because the relationship with your surrogate at that time, and certainly from my perspective, from an IP perspective, with Aurora, we did have the time and distance between us. And so whilst we were in regular, contact, and it felt, because we were so far from each other, I don't know, maybe it wasn't as intense as it was with us.
Yeah. Also, probably by like 2-week walk. Yeah, it's like, okay, let's go again. Oh, yeah. I mean, to talk on a really, personal level, we had a funny, well, not funny, there's nothing funny about it. We had a really hard time with our 3rd because we had a chemical pregnancy as well. So that to me was probably the saddest part of my journey as a surrogate, was that on day 8 when I tested, which is a bit earlier than recommended, I got a positive pregnancy test. I finally thought we've got there on our journey, and then waited a couple more days and then shared that news with Georgia and Duncan, which was one of the nicest and most beautiful moments of our journey. 2 weeks later, I had a negative positive. 2 days later, I had a negative test, and the lead came back negative. And that sort of mini cycle of hope and hopelessness is just like, as a surrogate, you're there going, I am about to crush the world of people whose lives I've just made. And as an IP, it's like, fine, I know for you, you'd finally got there. And then we weren't there, and goalposts moved yet again. So it can be
a bumpy.
Yeah, it's a bumpy rock. Yeah, it is. And there's there's no point in glossing over, it's a bumpy ride, but you're in it together with your surrogate, with your IP, you're in it together with your friends and all the support, people who support you and love you.
Absolutely. And I think that's just what's so important, isn't it? Having that support network around you. Kay, with this pregnancy in the 2-week wait, how much communication did you have with your IPs? What did that look like?
Yeah, like a lot. But I think this is a place where we can give some real advice actually to IPs and to surrogates, because there's that confusion of symptoms, particularly maybe less so if you've been on a completely natural cycle. But most surrogates have been on at least a supported. So your body has got hormones in it that are going to produce these symptoms. As IPs, asking your surrogate what their symptoms are is probably not the right approach. Ask them how they are. How are you doing? How are you getting through your days? Are you okay? But asking, are you feeling anything, is actually a really tricky place to be as a surrogate, because you are feeling things and you kind of don't want to talk about them. Because what if I tell you that my BS are really, really, really hurting and sore? I know we had a funny thing on our journey, which was that I was taking progesterone suppositories, which had a little pink tinge to them. I kept thinking, oh, I've had an implantation. Actually, it was just the red progesterone, So it's all of these different things. So symptom talk doesn't help.
No.
But checking in with each other. What are you doing to distract? My IPs were great. They were at the time watching a series that they were able to send me copies of, because I couldn't access it from where I live. So they were sending me a new series episode every day. And I was like, okay, this is good. We're all in this journey to find them and get it through it. But then I guess the other really interesting thing to touch on is there's also an assumption that when you get a positive test, that's the end of that anxiety.
No.
I'm over the bit.
Yeah. The anxiety quietens for about an hour, and then the next wave of anxiety comes through.
Yeah, it does indeed. Remember when we had the date for our 2 weeks is up, let's test, and I just remember it so clearly. It was a Sunday morning. It was Mexico with the time difference, and Saturday night Duncan and I just didn't sleep a wink. We were just Sunday morning. I was like, right, I'm going to go to yoga. I just need to go and just get out of my head for a little bit and just move. And I just remember it so clearly. I was walking to the machine to pay for my car parking, and I had the text from Carly. Makes me look now. And she said that we had positive. And I was just asked, because how are we going to go do yoga now? I did pay for my ticket. I remember to pay for my ticket, put my ticket back in the car, went and did a yoga class. And I'm so glad actually I went to do that, because I didn't really know what else to do, and just going doing something that just allowed me to get out of my head. It was just, when you sort of read something and you can't actually believe what you're seeing. With us though, the HCG levels were low. So yes, it was a positive test result, but the HCG hormone levels were low. I didn't know what that meant at the time. And now sort of I understood afterwards that these levels need to sort of double each day and everything. So then I was fixated on these bloody HCG. Also to get back to shots and all sorts of things. I became an expert on it, and I remember I reached out to you. It's just then your focus shifts from that anxiety. Then this now, gosh, hope this works out and stays.
And I think it is difficult for surrogates, isn't it? Because, your intended parents potentially have been through quite a traumatic fertility journey to get to the point of surrogacy. We have our own baggage of what we've experienced, what we know, about HCG levels, symptoms and things like that. And you don't want to, as an IP, put that on your surrogate, but ultimately you're also reading into everything because of your own experience and what what you've had in history, really. And it's really difficult, because I remember I found it quite hard, because Em never experienced, any symptoms, but that was what her body didn't with her own children. But automatically you're like, well, that was a negative, thing for me when I didn't have, symptoms, and that ended with miscarriage. So you're constantly comparing.
Yes.
And that must be really difficult as a surrogate.
Yeah, it is. You are constantly comparing to if you've had your own children to those journeys, and also from my point of view, constantly comparing to the previous cycle with Woodrow and Duncan.
Yeah.
I really early on, and this might be a bit woo woo for other people, but I really early on wrote a kind of affirmation to get me through this early pregnancy piece, which I've actually still got as my screensaver on my phone. And one of the top things in it is a line from one of my really good friends, Orla, which says, "Energy follows thought." And it's just been the thing of, now I don't necessarily think that we can think our way into being pregnant.
Yeah.
But where I put my energy and where I kind of align my thinking is my choice. And I think, having worked to support baby loss and pregnancy loss for a lot of people over the years of being a doula, it is that thing of like, where am I putting my power and my energy right now? What thoughts am I choosing to go down? Because after the 2-week wait in surrogacy, you go into waiting for the heartbeat scan, which is a 6-week wait. And then you go into waiting for your dating scan, which is, you do it. And
No, there isn't. No.
there isn't an end to that waiting period of time, actually. And then, I think probably on this journey, for me, the biggest landmark was getting beyond 28 weeks, which is at the point at which child has greater likelihood of living outside utero. There was a bit of an exhale for me at that point where I go, okay, we got again. It's a 28-week wait. And where that line, energy follows thought, has been really, really helpful for me to go like, hey, just try your absolute hardest to kind of, be positive about this and to trust it.
And how did you share the news of your positive result this time with this pregnancy with the IPs?
That's a bit of a funny part because we're making a documentary about our journey. So I alluded to the fact that they wouldn't be disappointed and then invited them to a studio where we went, and I got filmed peeing on a stick and gave it to them. And it's got a bit of a funny story to it, in as much as I used a brand of pregnancy testing, which it's a digital one. So it tells you, it says pregnant rather than, a positive line or what have you. And I came out, and to sort of make it work on the documentary, I put it back into the packet, and I think Danny, one of my IPs, thought that was full of my wee. So he sort of, and the documentary holding it like he's held me up as a containing my pip. He wasn't, bless him, but yeah, they pulled out, and then we were filmed, and we just all had, let's go.
So they didn't know until that time.
I know it's about 3 years actually caught on camera, and it was it was just lush. They then, what really touched me at that point was the first thing they wanted to do was ring their family. So I sat with them while they had these Spanish conversations, and you sat beat that in that way, but just so like, what a privilege to sit with people at that point. I remember telling my families when I was pregnant with my two, and it's such a personal moment, and to be there and present with them while they were doing that was just like an absolute joy and privilege.
And I think it's really important to enjoy that moment, isn't it? Because yes, you're going to have another wait to a heartbeat scan, but you have to allow those happy feelings for however long they last for in that moment, right? That's just one step at a time. But it's hard to not get away with yourself either, isn't it?
It's so hard. Yeah. I remember when we experienced that chemical pregnancy, and it was the first time that I'd truly allowed myself to go there in terms of like, oh my God, baby could be born at Christmas.
Yeah.
What will the nursery be like? I just went there.
Yeah.
And I hadn't allowed myself to do that. So I totally agree with you. When you do get that positive outcome, which will happen, allow yourself to feel and go where you've wanted to go first.
Where you haven't, where
you've blocked all, then you fear of your absolute more loss, and more despair.
I think some of those key things are like the lunch you go for after your embryo transfer. I remember all of our embryo transfers when where we've gone for lovely lunches after. Like, allow yourself to enjoy that, because there's nothing proving otherwise that you're not. I think if you do get a positive test, allow yourself just a little bit of enjoyment.
You're always going to protect yourself, aren't you? But just, for however long, whether it's a minute, whether it's an hour, just allow that little bit of joy, at that moment in time.
I think the one gift that comes with this journey is we need to cultivate it, but it's the gift of presence, trying to be present with the now, which isn't easy. It's easier said than done, but I think it's usually give to just be present. This is happening now, okay, we want to protect ourselves for what may happen.
Yeah.
But you're right, enjoy the moment,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what support or reassurance would you offer to others in this stage as a closing sort of comment?
Positive thinking as much as you possibly can, and that people will say to you, don't hyper focus on it, and I think accept the fact that that's not going to be possible, but maybe thinking about what your boundaries are beforehand, particularly from a surrogate point of view, testing, do make that decision for yourself and try to be really disciplined. Am I going to be an early tester, and if so, at what date, and what am I going to do if that testing shows negative? Set your boundaries before you enter the 2-week wait and try really hard to stick to them. That doesn't mean don't think about it, but try and stick to what you've kind of committed to for yourself, I think.
Yeah, I do think that's important, having that conversation with your IPs as well about how you want to manage that weight, because you're so focused on building up to that point, and then it's then just completely out of your control. And I guess for me, the key takeaway is it is out of your control. It's surrendering to it.
Yeah.
Having this sort of light of hope, which we need. What keeps us moving forward, and try and stay present. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you both so much for joining us today. And thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and want to find out more about MSJ and our completely unique surrogate membership, then please head over to our website, www.mysurrogacyjourney.com, or find us on Instagram @officialmysurrogacyjourney. If you loved this episode, then please subscribe to the series, as we will be having another episode coming out weekly. Thank you for listening. I'm Sophie. I've been your guest host today. Goodbye.